Our next speaker this morning is Ben Kerrick. He comes to us from Karp and Partners, where he is a consultant in the food systems world. He works in the intersection of food, ag, and health. A little bit more about Ben. Ben grew up in Idaho, but has since left the great state of Idaho and moved to the East Coast, where he lives in Brooklyn with his Rhodesian Ridgeback mix named Henry. How hipster is that? Please help me welcome to the stage Ben Kerrick.
Thanks, Kerrick. Hey, good morning. Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here. I was so thrilled to discover the Cultivating Change Foundation, and I'm really excited to be here for this summit. So, as Kirk said, I grew up in Idaho. Is anyone here from Idaho? No. I'm the only Idahomo in the room. And I usually am actually the only Idahomo in the room. So Idaho, as you all probably know, is a super conservative, super rural, largely agricultural state. It's basically either agriculture or mountains there. And both of my parents came from agricultural backgrounds. My mom grew up on a dairy. My dad worked his way through college, picking mint and strawberries in the fields of southern Idaho. And my hometown, Lewiston, is surrounded by agriculture. It's adjacent to some of the most productive wheat fields in the country. And I wanted to get as far away from agriculture as I possibly could. I associated agriculture culturally with people that caused me a lot of pain as I was growing up. The guys that made fun of me for taking dance class, for liking theater, for not knowing anything about sports and not wanting to know anything about sports, for choreographing and performing a really amazing solo dance piece to Mariah Carey's hit song Emotions in the 5th grade talent show. True story. All of the, those were the guys, they were farm boys, and I wanted out. So I got out. I came out late in high school, and I took one of the more dramatic escape routes that a gay kid from Idaho could. I got a major in theater, and I moved to New York City. And I loved it. I still love it. I still live there. New York City is my home now. So I ended up working for an arts nonprofit in Lower Manhattan. I was working with artists on a daily basis. It was a very cool, hip, sexy job. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. But after doing that for a few years, I weirdly found myself getting really curious about agriculture and food. And I think there was something about having grown up in Idaho with agriculture as this sort of background noise, and then living in this massive city that kind of turned on this part of my brain that was how does this work? How do we feed all of these people? And so I started kind of dipping my toes in the water a little bit with food. I did an apprenticeship on a rooftop farm in Brooklyn. Yeah, super Brooklyn, super hipster. I volunteered at farmers markets. I took a local food policy class. And then I decided to take the plunge. I quit my job and I went to graduate school at Ohio State University and got master's degrees in city and regional planning and environmental science. And in both of those programs, I was really focusing on the relationship between food and cities and how we feed our urban centers. So now I work for a company called Karp and Partners, or KK&P. I've been there for about 3 years. We like to say we work at the intersection of food, agriculture, and health. So we work with government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and food businesses to conceptualize, develop, and execute projects that contribute to a food system that is more equitable, resilient, or sustainable. The work that we do does not explicitly address LGBT issues, but me being a gay man, that part of my identity is very much in my awareness in a lot of the work that I do. As I'm sure is true for a lot of us who have queer identities and do this work. And that can be really challenging sometimes. We are based in New York City, but we work across the country in urban and rural communities. And it can be really intimidating for me to go into a community like the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and facilitate a roundtable discussion between livestock farmers and slaughterhouse operators, which I have done, and it's a little scary. But what I usually find is that I'm more worked up about it than I need to be, and have had some really wonderful surprises from those experiences. After that roundtable in the UP, one of the farmers found me on Facebook the following week and added me and start going through his photos, and there's all these drag queens. And I was like, oh, you're gay. And so we like had this connection, and it was really lovely. And I had no idea during the roundtable discussion that, that he was gay. So I'm really interested in this question or idea about what is the intersection between LGBT experience and working in the food system. I think that these conversations often start from a place of what are the challenges, what is the experience of discrimination, and how do we overcome that? And I think that's an absolutely critical conversation to keep having. I'm also, though, really interested in flipping that script a little bit and asking what it is that we bring to the food system. What are the unique assets and perspectives that we as queer people have to offer the food system? Some of you may remember a year or so ago, Rush Limbaugh got all worked up about the USDA LGBT outreach program, and he was like, lesbian farmers are invading your rural communities. Yeah, exactly. I know. Bring them on. And there was a great t-shirt that was made in response to that just said, America needs lesbian farmers. And I was like, yes, it does need lesbian farmers. Then I was kind of like, okay, but I need to have better language to think and talk about why it does. So I have a start, and I'm going to share 3 ideas with you. They're kind of still workshopping, and I'd love to continue the conversation and discuss them with you more. And I'm going to broaden it a little bit to think about why the US food system needs queer people. The first reason I think the US food system needs us is that we are uniquely positioned to form connections between rural and urban communities. As LGBT people working in agriculture, agriculture is largely a rural phenomenon, and LGBT communities are traditionally, historically associated with urban centers. So, I think we have one foot on either side of that fence, and we have the ability to speak both of those languages. And I think that's A, really rare, and B, really critical to form stronger connections across those communities. The second reason I think the US food system needs us is that we have firsthand experience of marginalization. And we need to tap into that and leverage that to develop empathy for other marginalized communities, communities of color, and communities living in poverty who are not currently being sufficiently served by our food system. So we need to tap into that and build a stronger food system that serves everyone, and especially the least fortunate among us. The third reason I think the US food system needs us is that we have, I think, really expansive notions of family and community. I don't know about anyone else, but I actually bristle a little bit at the fetishization of the family farm, because I think historically that term has referred to exclusively a heterosexual nuclear family. And if you go home and Google image search family farm, all of the images that come up are heterosexual and also white. On the other hand, one of my favorite gay slang terms is family. It's a little old school. Some of the younger people might not know that usage, but it means gay. Is he family? Is she family? Because so many of us, I think, were abandoned by our biological families. We went to cities and formed our own families and formed our own communities. So I think we have really broad and open ideas of what it means to form a family and who our community is. Well, what does that mean for the food system? I think that our food system is way, 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 way past the point where agriculture is about growing food for your family. We are growing food for communities. We're feeding our society. And so I think that we have to really tap into that broad notion of family and community. I think that's really valuable for building a stronger food system. So as I sort of reflect on these 3 ideas, and I have some others which we can talk about later, I really consider and view my queerness as a gift and a privilege. And I didn't always. In middle school and high school, I was terrified of it, and I wanted it to go away. But now I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I think that I want all of us to acknowledge and own that we've been given a gift in our LGBT identity, and we have to use that to build a stronger food system. We have to use that to cultivate stronger respect for the earth and our natural resources. We have to use that to build stronger livelihoods for our farmers. And we have to use that to build a food system that serves everyone in our community, especially those who are underserved. So that's my assignment to you. Own that you have been given a gift and go out there and use it. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Ben, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for allowing us to add a Idahomo to our Cultivating Change family.